Pentecost. When you hear the word Pentecost, what do you think of? Is it familiar or does it sound strange? Is it as strange as that story that we just heard read by Meredith? I wonder, why is Pentecost, why hasn't Pentecost caught on fire with the same way that Christmas has? Why haven't the marketers grabbed hold of it as the premier mid-seasonal sales bonanza? Where are the decorations, the lights, the packages all wrapped up in red bows? Where are the Pentecost cards and the Pentecost family letters detailing the goings-on for the last 6 months, written by cats sometimes? We know the spirit of Christmas, but where is the spirit of Pentecost? Perhaps the retailers have latched on to Memorial Day as the better holiday to exploit. Well, at least some of them. Memorial Day makes more sense, doesn't it? A time set aside to honor those who have paid the supreme price of laying down their lives for this country. Let's put up balloons and have a sale. What could be better than to throw a party or an extravagant event? Sorry about that, a little honest sarcasm. But I do wonder why Pentecost hasn't taken hold the same way that Christmas has. Not because I like the secularization of Christmas, but rather because Pentecost is to the Spirit of God what Christmas is to the Son of God. Pentecost is to the Holy Spirit what Christmas is to Jesus. If Christmas is the coming of Emmanuel, God with us, then Pentecost is the coming of Emmanuel, God still with us. So tell me, where are the songs of the seasons and the carols and the candles? The stories really aren't all that different. Just as Mary went away for a while before Jesus is born, the disciples too have gone away. Just as Bethlehem was filled to overflowing to the point where there was no room for the family, the streets of Jerusalem were overflowing with people from every corner of the known world. And just as the angelic choir sang glorious songs and filled the sky, heralding the coming of the Messiah, a choir of human beings filled the air with the good news of the Messiah's rising and the arrival of God's ongoing presence in the Spirit, singing in languages as diverse as the people gathered. At one, we celebrate the birthday of Christ. At the other, as Meredith has already reminded us, we celebrate the birthday of the church. So where are the decorations, the packages, the bows, the flames of fire, the sound of many voices? It would be easy to chalk up our discomfort and our ignoring of this story to our discomfort and ignoring of the story of our own movements beginning, the Christian churches beginning. When we hear those crazy stories of Cane Ridge, whether we call it a communion festival or a revival, when we hear those strange stories of swooning, lying dead, barking like dogs, when we hear those stories of laughter and tongues, we get a bit defensive. We even may be a bit embarrassed. It would be easy to say we quickly put such machinations behind us in order to take a more level-headed and rational approach to faith. And while that is true, the one really has little to do with the other, except perhaps both the beginning of the church 2,000 years ago and the beginning of the Christian church, which becomes the disciples of Christ 200 years later. Both of those beginning prick our discomfort, making us nervous about anything where the emotions are engaged. I wonder what might happen if we were to set out to celebrate Pentecost with the same vigor and with the same resources that we celebrate Christmas. If the Christmas season brings out the child in all of us, would the season of Pentecost bring out the Spirit in all of us? If one brings peace on the earth, would the other bring hope to the earth? What would your friends and family think if next year, on the day before Pentecost, you invited your friends and family to come with you to church to the annual Pentecost Eve service at 11 o'clock? The Pentecost Eve candle lighting service. Do you think we could fill the church and have it running over like we do on Christmas Eve? What songs would we sing? What songs would we sing as we lit our candles and raised them over our heads? By now, I expect some of you might be groaning, wanting me to move on and leave this wondering behind, but indulge me for a minute or two more. The Apostle Paul, in his letter to the churches in Rome, writes of the whole creation groaning, suffering labor pains, waiting for the Spirit to set us free. Here it is not Mary who labors to give birth. It is all creation, even the earth itself, the sun, the moon, the stars, all giving birth to the Spirit. And whereas at the birth of Jesus, the world receives the gift of peace, Paul tells us that at the birth of the Spirit, the gift of hope is carried forth. In one, we look back with adoring eyes. In the other, we look forward to whatever is ahead, celebrating Emmanuel, God with us then, God with us still, and God with us then. The three candles on the cupcakes. Paul asked the rhetorical question, who hopes for what they already see? We don't hope for what we see, what we have, what we know. We hope for tomorrow. We hope for our children and our grandchildren. We hope for a kindlier world, one where the fear of war and terror is eradicated. We hope for an earth that is sustainable and an environment that is life-supporting. We hope for health, for ourselves, for our friends, for our loved ones. And we hope for desires unnamed and wounds unnameable. And it is Pentecost which feeds our hope, grows our hope, nurtures our hope, if only we were open to the Spirit's leading. While Christmas sings of joy in our lives, Pentecost groans of the hopes we cannot express. Both are needed. Both are essential. For weeks and months we have traveled the road of childbirth, first with Elle and Pete, and now with Mariah and Josh. We have seen the joy and the happiness. We have not seen the anxiety and pain. We have heard the excitement and plans. We have not heard the worry and uncertainty. We promised Rice Shelby Travis that we would provide him with a loving place to learn and to live and to find faith. And we will promise James Oliver Allen too when the time comes. The truth is, we can only keep our promises to our children and this community with the Spirit's help. The truth is, we can only achieve the hopes for our church with the Spirit's help. The truth is, from the very beginning of this church, with Philip and Nancy Fall, Ambrose and Eliza Dudley, Elias Myers, Elizabeth Bacon, and O.L. Leonard, who signed those opening documents. From them right down to this morning, it is only the Spirit's vitality in the people of this church that have made it possible to keep any hope and any of our promises. In a few weeks, America will celebrate another national holiday, the 4th of July. We will celebrate it with parades and fireworks. It celebrates the birth of a people, a nation. It celebrates the signing of a document which has inspired those people for over 200 years. We will sing patriotic songs, happily wave our flags, and once more hold our annual family reunion. This week, as a people, we celebrate Memorial Day, a day birthed in solemnity, a solemnity which also speaks of hope for the future. It memorializes those who have died in war, not to glorify war, but to recognize its costs. For often, all too often, hope is birthed in sacrificial death. So we wave our flags quietly. Pilgrimage to a cemetery, humbly giving thanks for what we have been given. Pentecost, a church holy day, comes 52 days after Jesus' death on the cross. It is filled with hope, birthed in pain and sorrow. It comes 50 days after Easter, when God's resurrecting power overcomes pain and suffering. It comes again today, proclaiming the power of the Spirit, the one who sustains us in our weakness, supports us in our failings, and prays us through our times of inexpressible groanings. Pentecost comes to remind us that the peace of Christmas is still before us, that the pain of Calvary is the pain of the world, that the signs of resurrection are all around us. Pentecost comes just in time, fueling our spirits for today and tomorrow, reminding us that Emmanuel is still with us and always will be.